your grandmother's shares and it's paper, you can't sell it until it is converted into electronic form. So that is how it works. And when it comes to trading, if you want to buy or sell, you need a licensed dealing member of the Ghana Stock Exchange. Without them, you can't sell. I mentioned that we are creating electronic platforms now. So you wouldn't physically come to the licensed dealing member. You have a platform and then you put your order in. And then when you click, it goes through the system, it will be executed. And so that is where investment is moving towards. And because your generation is totally mobile phone generation, we are also trying to adapt to the new generation of investors that we have. So what goes into the decision to buy or sell? When we talk about buy or sell, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that you have your grandmother's, which company is even very old? Anglo Gold Ashanti, yes. You have 10 shares of Anglo Gold Ashanti, and it's in paper form. First, we'll do the conversion to electronic, and then the decision has to be made whether you want to sell it or you still want to keep it. When it comes to making those decisions, there are investment tools that we use. I don't want to talk about the investment tools here because that will take us a very long time. Yes. But I'll briefly mention what goes into that. So normally you have to collect data on data, and then you have to analyze them. And then based on your analysis, you come up with what we call recommendations. And the recommendations are whether you want to buy if you don't have the security, or you want to sell, or you still want to hold it. This work is done by research analysts. And if you don't know how to do the analysis, your first point of call will be to speak to a research analyst. Most of the time, they will be willing to give the recommendations for free. But I would say that as a young investor, it would help to also acquire the tools yourself. Because sometimes, I'm not saying the experts are wrong, but sometimes your intentions will not be very visible to the analyst. Sometimes your nature might not even be the same as that of the analyst. What goes into this analysis? We have the very objective bit where you look at the data and then you do your statistics and all that. But there's also a psychological bit. That one, the analyst can't get into your head to understand your psychology. So there are people here who don't like risk at all. And there are people who just love risk. Depending on where you are, it would affect your choice of securities that you want to invest in. So that's why I say that you should also learn how to do this analysis. Fortunately, the internet is there. ChatGPT is also there. You can just look at investment analysis tools and it will take you through all the processes. With time, you would also get to understand how it's done. So you need collect data, you need analysis tool, and then you need to generate investment recommendations. At our end, what we do as an added service is to help investors with these recommendations. Because we are very close to the market, we can tell you that, okay, these are the securities that look promising. And these are the ones that we think will not do too well. And then based on that, you decide whether you want to buy the security, or if you have it already, whether you want to sell. When you make that decision to either buy or sell, there's a process that you have to go through. So first, you need to have a depository account. And I know CSD talked about it. So that is your bank account for investment. So you would have your own normal bank account, but this one is what will hold the securities you buy. So you need to open one. And I think the most important requirement here would be your Ghana card. So if you have your Ghana card and you fill the form, the account will be created for you. Without this account, you can't buy or sell stocks or shares. So when you have your grandmother's paper certificate, to deneutralize it, you first need to create a depository account into which that paper certificate will be deposited when it is converted to electronic form. When you open the account, then you place your order. So the order can be you want to buy or you want to sell. And whether to buy or sell will depend on the research you have done. If you haven't done your research and you want to come to the market to buy, you will be gambling. So you have to know what you are doing. Otherwise, you might lose your money. I remember some years back, we had this student, I think he was in SHS. And he came to the office with his uniform. I think he had clothes from school. And then when he came, he said he's been reading the newspapers about stocks and all that, and he wants to come and buy stocks. And the first question we asked him was that, how much does he want to buy? Then he mentioned, I've forgotten the amount. So we asked where he got the money from. He said that was his school fees, and he wanted to buy. He wanted to buy the shares and then wait a little, because normally the school fees they start demanding after the midterm. By then you would have made a little profit, he will sell it, and then you go and pay the school fees. And in that situation, I mean, in the office everybody was laughing because we're all like, there's somebody who's ambitious, but he doesn't even know how the market works. So we sat him down to explain everything to him, and we made him aware that he can even lose part of the money. So the best thing for him to do is to go and pay the school fees. When he finishes school and he starts working, he should come. We'll give him all the advice he needs. He wasn't too convinced, but I think he would understand. Because any financial advisor you visit, they will tell you the same thing. And let me caution here that if you want to buy shares, you should make sure it is money that you can afford to lose. Don't come and gamble with your hostel money. if you are not careful, you will lose it. So please, if it's not money that you can lose, don't. We've had situations where students have come to invest. They have a little money from what they were given and then they decided to invest. And the problem we had at the time, and I used to complain to my colleagues that student clients are the worst one to manage because when the share price are going up, they will call you almost every day. When the prices are coming down too, they will call you almost every day. So you don't even know which situation is good for you. Because when it starts going up, the call you get is, I want to sell. And when you tell them that, why do you want to sell? What if the price drops? And then when the price starts dropping, then they will say that, should I sell now or I should wait for the price to come up? And it will be back and forth, until the person gets to understand how the market works. So sometimes we used to have a program where we invite young investors, we sit them down, explain the market to them, how it works, how you can make gains and all that. And then from that discussion, then you get the calls reducing. Yes. So when you are placing your order, because there are prices attached to the securities, the point you buy at is very important because sometimes the security will be so expensive, other times it will be cheap. And the advice is that you buy when it's cheap. But for most young investors, they will buy when it is expensive. So when MTN was at 1 cedi and a little above 1 cedi, that's when it was cheap. But nobody would want to buy. Now that it is getting to 4, that is when the news goes out. And everybody else would want to get into the action. But at that point, it might be too late. Because when the price peaks at a certain level, what investors will say is that they want to take their profits. And when they start taking their profits, then the price will start dropping. If you got in late at the peak, by the time you get in and they start selling, then you start losing your money. And for young investors, when they start losing money, it is not a pleasant experience. The money they have is not enough. And then they will start losing some. So when you place your order, I will look at the various orders that we have. If you want to buy a security, there should be somebody who wants to sell before the transaction can happen. Sometimes you want to buy, but nobody wants to sell. Or sometimes you want to sell, nobody wants to buy. It happens in the market. Sometimes you have a lot of people who want to buy, and they can't get anything to buy. Sometimes you have a lot of people who want to sell, and they wouldn't have anybody who wants to buy. That's how the market works. So when you want to buy anything, you have to take into consideration the availability of whatever you want to buy, or whether there are buyers for whatever you want to sell. Because without them, the market cannot happen. So when you put in your order to buy MTN shares, there should be somebody sitting at the opposite side who wants to sell the MTN shares. When you have a counterparty like that, then the transaction would happen. But the only time it would happen is when the price you want to buy is agreeable to the price the person wants to sell. If the two don't match, you will still not be able to buy or sell. So that's what makes the market a bit complicated. But sometimes when you go to your broker, what you tell them is that you want to buy at market. What we mean by buying at market is the price that is currently being quoted on the market for the security. You want to buy at that price. That is the price that you would easily get. Sometimes we come in and we say that, okay, MTN is at 3 cities, 67 pesos. I want to buy it at 3 cities. So the broker would have to wait for the price to come down to 3 cities. If the price doesn't come down to 3 cities, you can't buy. Sometimes what you do is to tell your broker that, okay, MTN is at 3 cities 67. I want you to buy at the best market price. But if it goes to 4 cities, please cancel my order. So you can give the broker a range to work in. Or you can tell them that, please, I want to buy only below 3 cities. So they'll go to the market and they'll put their order in. People will see the order, and if the 3 cities 67 pesos is not selling, the seller can look at it and say that it looks like everybody wants to buy it at 3 cities. So why don't I reduce my price and sell it? So that's what happens in the market. Or sometimes from the buyer's side, they have seen that the sellers are quoting 3 cities 50 pesos and they want to buy it at 3 cities. After a while, they'll come back and adjust their prices. Or sometimes you get a call from the broker that currently looks like your price, we can't get it. What we can get is between this price and that price. And so if you are okay with the idea, they'll go ahead and put in your price. And now the system is electronic, so it will match the prices. You don't have to do anything. You enter yours. If there's a matching, it will go through. And when it goes through, that is when we say the order has been executed. After the execution, we have what we call confirmation. So what confirmation means is the order goes through, you get an email that, okay, you wanted to buy A, B, and C. We have gotten a seller who is willing to sell at that point, so the trade is executed. After we execute the trade, we do what we call settlement. So the security and the money needs to change hands. Like you go to the market to buy tomatoes, you have your money, you give it to the seller, they will give you the tomatoes. That's what we call the settlement. So we settle. I pay, I get a security. So I pay from my bank account, and then the security I get goes into my depository account. And then the person selling would have the money move into their bank account. And then their depository account will be reduced by the number of shares they have sold. So if they sold 20 shares of, let's say, GCB, their total number of shares for GCB will reduce by 20, and mine will increase by 20, and then the transaction is closed. When the transaction is closed, you get what we call a contract note that will tell you the price you paid for the security, the quantity, and then any charges that is associated with the trade. So that is how the order cycle is like. And this T plus 3 here means that from the time you do the transaction in the very developed market, they do same day. So you transact, it goes through the system, settlement happening. But they also started from T+3 into T+2 and then gradually. So we will get there. When it comes to the other types, so I just mentioned the others. So we have the buy, which we call the bid. And then we have the sell, which we call the offer. So the market terms are offer, bid, and offer. Bid for buy, and then offer for sell. And this is how the transactions are captured into the system. There is a very good tool in the trading platform that looks at what we call the market watch. So it gives you an idea about how many people want to buy, the quantity they want to buy, and then the price at which they want to buy. So when you also have securities to sell or buy, and you have this information, it can inform where you also put your price. This is available to the stockbrokers. So when you put in your order and they go to the market watch, they can tell you that gold, the bid is 2.18. There are no asks, so nobody is selling at this moment. And the last price that it traded was at 2.18, which is the bid price now. So if you want to buy gold securities, what you have to think about is that now there is nobody who wants to sell at this. And if you look at bid size, so in aggregate, people want to buy 58,633 shares of gold at this price, but there's nobody who wants to sell. For some securities, you have it on the opposite side. Others, you have both of them. So if you take MTN, the bid is 3.95, and then the offer is 3.98. So those who want to sell it at 3 cedis, 98 pesos. Those who want to buy it at 3 cedis, 95 pesos. The only time the transaction would happen is when those who want to buy push their price to 3.98, or those who want to sell bring their price down to 3.95. That is when the transaction will take place. The question you might ask is, can't you just look at this information and take advantage of it? The thing is, there are people with diverse opinions. Some people think the 3.95 is too low. Others think the 3.98 is too high. And it is the whole market. So it will be difficult for you to come and take this information and take advantage of it. The only thing you can do is for you to do your research so that you can tell whether this 3.95 is a good price or not. If you see it here, you won't be able to tell. Because sometimes what goes into this price is not data or analysis. It is emotions. If I am very broke and I have MTN shares, I would want to sell it at any price. It has nothing to do with any analysis or what have you. So all the prices you see, there's the objective part and there's the very subjective part, which is emotional. Nothing technical about it. So That is why it's difficult to even use this one to do anything. So the others, this I have talked about. So market, best effort, and limit. So market is when you want to buy or sell at the price prevailing on the market. Best effort, you tell the broker that please do your possible best to buy at this price or within this price. If you can't get it, please buy at market. Or you can have a limit order where you tell them that please buy at this specific price for me, or buy within this range, or try to buy at this price. After a week, if you don't get it, please cancel my order. And finally, the documentation that goes with the trade. So when you transact, you get what we call a contract note. That specifies the number of shares, the price you bought it at, the total amount, the levies you pay, the broker commission, and then the net value. So this is what you get after you finish the trade. And that is where I want to end. Thank you.
This week. Keep up with our updates, and we come same day